Welcome to another episode of Salty Zed Balls. We're going to be reviewing the Week 3 action of the NRL. After 2 months out with no rugby league action, the NRL was back with a bang. And my God, there were some really good games this past weekend. So last Thursday's game was between the Broncos and the Eels. The Parramatta winning that game 34-6. Man, the Eels were just good. They were dominant, they were strong, they were defensively solid, and attack and defensively they were just, and tactically they were just all over the Broncos. I know the Broncos have got a few injuries here and there, but man, you know what? The Eels are just a good team. It's actually a pleasure watching them play as well, man. They're playing some good football as well. You have to say, going 3-0 now, you have to say they're probably favourites to win the NRL Comp, in my opinion. They've got a good young team. They're hungry. Watch this space, man. I favoured them before the season started. That they'll be a dark horse, and they're proving it now. Like, they beat 3 big teams in their first 3 games. So, all credit to them. The second game was between the Cowboys and the Titans. So, a little Queensland derby there. Cowboys winning that game 36-6. The Cowboys were good, man. I mean, I like the way Valentine Holmes was playing. He was like, it's the old Valentine Holmes that we know, that we used to see at the Sharks when he was playing for them a couple of years ago. I mean, he's now getting more involved in the team, and you can't say nothing wrong about Jason Taumalolo, arguably probably the best player in the NRL. He's an absolute beast. The Cowboys were just like, really effective, playing high tempo football. And they're getting a bit physical as well. I know some of their players were getting sin bin and stuff, so they might need to keep their disciplinary a bit grounded. But man, a great performance by them. The Titans, of course, well, they had a few stints here and there where they should have scored some more tries, but credit to the Cowboys, man. They're defensively sound. So the Cowboys win that game 36-6. The Roosters and the Rabbitohs. Latrell Mitchell going against his former club. Man, this was a good game as well to watch. The Roosters, for the majority of the game, looked very comfortable. Especially Daniel Tupou. He had a really good game. He was tearing through that line, that Rabbitohs line, and he was causing all kinds of problems for the Bunnies. Latrell Mitchell didn't do much. I mean, for the Roosters for the Rabbitohs, he was kind of lacking, ideas. To be fair to the Roosters, I mean, they were defensively sound. Especially a shout out to Morris, who was just on par, 10 out of 10 performance from defensively. The Roosters were just frustrating Latrell Mitchell. They know how he plays. And it's proving, and he's actually proved to the Bunnies that he's not actually a fullback. He's probably more effective as a centre. And they stopped him. And they stopped the Bunnies from actually getting through and scoring more tries because they were so accurate in their defensive play. So, man, a great performance there for the Roosters. Getting a 28-12 victory over the Bunnies. The Roosters just starting to show signs of their championship style of football. Warriors and the Dragons. As you know, the Warriors are not playing any home games anytime soon, so they're going to play their home games in Queensland. And credit to them, they got the victory over the Dragons, 18-0. The Warriors were just pretty much dominant in that game. The Dragons were just poor. And the Warriors, capitalized on that, and they saw the weaknesses, and there's so many holes and gaps in their defensive line. And there was really no real rhythm in the style of play that the Dragons were having. The Warriors capitalized on winning that game pretty much easily, to be fair. I'm actually surprised they didn't score more points. That's how bad the Dragons were. The Dragons going 0-3 now to the start of the NRL campaign. A lot of their fans are calling for the head of their head coach, Paul McGregor, who's under a fire because of his poor start. But I think it's a bit harsh, like sacking the manager. I know they've had a really poor start, but just to fire a manager after 3 games, especially the whole COVID thing, is a bit harsh. I mean, if they go to lose the next 4 games, I'll probably be worried and I might have to question it. But I'll give the guy a chance. But hey, credit to the Warriors. The Warriors win that game 18-0. Sharks versus the Tigers. I'd say this was actually a very, very interesting game. I actually thought that the Sharks will probably have a dominated game in this one, but the Sharks started off strong in the first half, man. But I think in the second half they kind of folded a little bit. I think they were just running out of steam, leaving too many gaps in the defense. Dugan had a really solid game, scoring 2 tries. He's pretty much been their player of the year so far. The Tigers, all credit to them, man. They capitalized. They saw the weakness in the Sharks line and managed to just smash it through. So the Tigers winning that game over the Sharks 28-16. The Melbourne Storm against the Canberra Raiders. This was a really, really good game. The Raiders were on fire from the get-go. They were strong, they were physical, they were fast-paced, they were playing quick footy. The Storm were just like very weak on defense. I mean, I don't know what it is. They just, they look very weak. I mean, defensively. But it's like every time the Raiders attack, it's like, you were seeing like Melbourne were kind of panicking and stuff. George Williams, the former Wigan Warriors player, was, my opinion, the man of the match for the Raiders. He had a smashing game. The Raiders winning that game convincingly, 22-6. The Panthers and the Knights. What a game this was, man. I mean, this was end-to-end stuff. It really was. The last 5 minutes, I think, was by far the more interesting one. So a drop goal kick from the Knights, they missed it. 2 drop goal kicks were missed by the Panthers and had to go into Golden Point. Golden Point, again, missed drop goals by the Panthers, and then the Knights had a golden the Knights had a golden chance to win the game, especially when Cedric Lee dropped that pass when he had the open space to score a try. The biggest one of them all was when the Panthers' last drop kick, literally he kicked it and it went inside the post and it rebounded out. I mean, what were the odds of that? That game ended in a draw, 14-all, and shockingly, funny enough, either team could have and should have won it, but it wasn't meant to be. Manly versus the Bulldogs. Manly winning that game 32-6. Trbojevic was on fire. I mean, he's starting to prove that he's probably one of the best fullbacks in the league. He was causing the Bulldogs all kind of problems, slicing through their line, causing them problems. He was creating opportunities for his teammates to score tries. I mean, he is an absolute nuisance to mark against because he's like such an unpredictable kind of player. A fantastic performance there from the Sea Eagles. They were just too good. I think Manly are really starting to be a contender as a team to get into the playoffs this year. A lot of the big teams will have to watch out because Manly are playing some really good football, man. And I'm really enjoying what they're doing, especially with Trbojevic and with Marty Kapau. Again, brilliant. Just loving what they're doing at the moment. It'll be interesting to see next week's game when the Eels play against Manly next week, which I think that is my game of the week. Both teams are 3-0. It'll be interesting to see who will come out on top in that game. So that's my review for my week 3 games in the NRL. It's been great getting some rugby league action back on our TV screens with the whole current situation going on. Man, comment, like, subscribe. Who was your team of the week? Who has impressed you? Which team? Which player? Any specific kind of like plays or stuff that's happened this past weekend's action? Let me know in the comment section below, and I shall see you on the next one.